Hello everyone, I welcome you to Drishti IAS and myself Akshay Gurubhaiye. So guys, we are here discussing about the 100 most important topics for Environment and Ecology UPSC Prelims 2026, and I hope you guys are really enjoying this. Yes, you are getting this concept, you are getting those PYQs equally at hand and the practice questions also, helping you to make it sure that whatever you understood able to apply it as well. Okay, so without wasting any further time, now we shall continue with what is lying for today. So we are almost really going to discuss 10 topics for today also. Okay, so like this climate smart agriculture, global plastic pollution treaty, NCAP National Clean Air Program, e-waste management amendment rules, sulfur dioxide emission norms, micro-pollutant in water PFAS, noise pollution standard, fly ash utilization policy, solid waste management rule. Okay, so this many points we will be covering in addition with the PYQs, those who are in connection to this topic, plus practice questions also to have a better clarity. And yes, as already I told you that the questions over in the past video, last episode, we are going to discuss in this particular session itself. So yes, you have to keep practice question, comment in the comment box, and now check your answer correct. Okay, so in India's air quality index is implemented under the guidance of CPCB. Okay, then which of the following functions of the CPCB? Yes, so advise the central government on pollution control, coordinate activities of state pollution control board, and grant environmental clearance for infrastructure project that is not within this particular case, that is within the various other bodies, environmental ministry, sometimes NGT also, and maybe the cabinet also. Okay, so it depends on, but not CPCB for sure. So answer is 1 and 2. Next, which of the following organisms are commonly used in bioremediation? I hope you must have got that concept when we were discussing it. Okay, so bacteria, fungi, and algae. Okay, so all these are correct. Okay, they are used as micro-remediation itself. Okay, then the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted by United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, the highest decision-making body of the UN. Then the carbon border adjustment mechanism primarily aims to prevent carbon leakage, yes, leakage from EU to some other non-EU producing country, impose carbon price on imports, particularly metal, cements and other products, yes, and promote renewable energy trade. So that is not the very purpose of it. And so answer is 1 and 2 to this question. Then the global stocktake mechanism is associated with Paris Agreement itself. 5-year stocktake needs to be there, and G20 Summit Global Stocktake New Delhi report had been published. Then the Loss and Damage Fund is intended to 2022 it was basically, and help developing countries deal with the climate disaster. Yes, to help developing countries to manage with it, finance mitigation project in developing countries, right, and provide support for adaptation and recovery as well. Okay, so it looks for all this, okay, adaptation and help them recovery also, because the damage led by climate change needs to be recovered as well. Then the last one, the global methane pledge aims to reduce global methane emission by 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%, 30% by 2030. Okay, so a bit, but remember India is not party to this particular convention itself. Okay, so now, so we have discussed the practice question, and again we are ready for the next topics in the sequence. Important topic, climate smart agriculture. Yes guys, that you can extend this topic to the carbon agriculture. See, there are various practices under it, right? That is simply what, whenever agriculture is one of the major producer of pollutants also, and one of the responsible factor for this climate change. So if we have a smart agriculture in a way that is very much in adaptation with the climate change, the climate agroclimatic conditions over of the region, and that is equally taking into consideration the water, then the air, then the soil quality and everything that rather in connect with, that is simply a climate smart agriculture. So here in the climate smart agriculture, we are looking for those kind of practices where you can adapt efficiently with the changing climate. So instead of, you will find having a full tillage, look for a zero tillage also. Instead of excess use of water supply or flood irrigation, look for a micro irrigation sources. Yes, instead of having a very water demanding crop like sugarcane or rice, look for your native, your local, the agroclimatic suitable crop then. Yeah, so this kind of practices, rather equally look for the wind tolerant, water stress tolerant crop also, helping you to deal with the adversities of climate. Is simply climate smart agriculture. I hope you guys are getting these things well. Okay. So carbon agriculture is equally this thing, right? Conservation agriculture, we will have a question on this. Carbon agriculture is simply where you are using carbon available in the atmosphere in a way so judiciously that the amount would rather decrease and equally you will get a higher productivity also. Okay. So this one, and sustainable agriculture is anyway resource optimization and the best outcome. Okay. Now have a question on this climate smart agriculture and related topics that was asked in this particular year. So with reference to the circumstances in Indian agriculture, the concept of conservation agriculture assumes significance. Which of the following fall under the conservation agriculture? Then first, avoiding monoculture practices. Is it? Yes, avoiding. Fine, let's see. Adapting minimum tillage, okay. Avoiding the cultivation of plantation crop, seems yes. Using crop residues to cover the soil surface, mulching, that is to be known as. So you are supposed to use in a conservative way. Okay. So yes, and adapting spatial and temporal crop sequencing and crop rotation itself. Okay. So see, in the conservation agriculture, avoiding seems a very extreme word. So you are not supposed to avoid in total, you are supposed to use it, produce it, but in a very fair way itself. Okay. So adapting minimum tillage, right? Using crop residues to cover soil surface, yes. Biomulching and adapting spatial and temporal crop sequencing or crop rotation so that soil can reclaim itself. Answer to this is okay. Then practice question for you, and just like today what we did, right, practice questions were discussed in this video also, right? Sorry, in this next video also we will be discussing those practice. Okay. So this thing, then banning single use plastics and global plastic pollution treaty. Yes, banning single use plastic and global plastic pollution treaty. See, India is among the few countries equally those are banning the single use plastic. So we are totally against the single use plastic, particularly 50 micron and that particular case. Okay. However, the world across now, the world is negotiating on global plastic pollution. Okay. So this plastic pollution treaty is what's a kind of binding treaty that we are negotiating. Okay. So that is binding to on negotiating and signing members also. Okay. Then you will find this cover whole life cycle of the plastic. It covers the life cycle of the plastic. So plastic life cycle from its production stage to utilization state and then reuse and then disposal state. Every stage of its life is rather recovered. Then you will find responsibilities of various stakeholders are also being negotiated here in this global plastic pollution treaty. However, the case is that it is still under negotiation, that it is yet to be totally agreed and finalized by the various countries. That okay, but yes, that is a very landmark if it would be implemented, because plastic is one of the major polluting source here in the nature. Yes, in fact it is one of the, like, by 2050 if the present rate of plastic pollution would continue, there would be more plastic than fishes in the ocean. Okay, so that is where you will find it has thousands of years of disposal time naturally, and hence it is a very cause of concern. Now see, a practice question just based on the information that has been given. You can look into that way and you are absolutely in that position to answer this. Then PM 2.5 and NCAP. Now PM, particulate matter. Yes, particulate matter 2.5. 2.5 micron it is, right? So PM 2.5 and PM 10, these are the two various, size particles pollutant. So PM 2.5 is very, guys, small size in that particular size of, and it can penetrate into lung and blood also, and leading to the adverse impacts on the health. PM10, however, failed to penetrate deep into that particular body, but it can cause some other irritations and outside effects as well. So this particulate matter is in particular a very dangerous case. Like these are the small dust like particles and the solid particles are in the atmosphere. So in order to control this particulate matter, NCAP, National Clean Air Program, was launched basically in 2019 to control PM particles 2.5 also and 10, right, by 20 to 30% by 2024. Yeah. So by 2024, we need to reduce its overall concentration to 20 to 30% by 2024. However, Center has recently extended it by 2026 to 40% of its overall value of 2017 itself. Okay. So we have pledged ourselves to reduce it to 40% almost of 2017 level in the 2026 itself. Yeah, and that is, for that matter, we have air quality index, we are strategizing ourselves, coordinating, and policy implementation, research and development, and every sort of initiative have been taken in order to manage this particular case well. I hope you guys are getting this concept of NCAP. So there was question based on this, in the context of WHO air quality guidelines following, like the 24-hour mean of PM 2.5 should not exceed 15 microgram per meter cube, while the annual mean should not exceed 5 microgram per meter cube, and that is absolutely correct statement. In here, the highest levels of ozone is equally pollutant, ground level particularly, occur during the period of inclement weather. No, it is during the normal period itself. PM10 can penetrate the lung barrier and enter the bloodstream. No, PM 2.5 has that potential, and excessive ozone in the air can trigger asthma. Okay, so yes, that is equally correct. Answer to this is 1 and 4. Yes. So 1 and 4 you will find these are rather correct statements here. Then practice question, guys, based on the explanation given to you. I know you can solve this question and give me absolutely correct answer. Okay. Anyway, we'll in that case we will be discussing in the next session episode also. Then e-waste amendment, management amendment rules. Remember 2016 amendment rule, not amendment, but 2016 rule were the first of its kind for e-waste management here in the country. India is among top 5 largest producer of e-waste. So we hardly have 10% of e-waste recycling here in the country. Right here, under e-waste management and amendment rule, or e-waste 2016, extended producer responsibilities were identified. Yes, responsibilities in a sense, those who are producer, they are equally having responsibility to deal with this e-waste, right? And if you cannot keep your skin aside, right, or your duties aside, just under the name you are merely producer. So it's not the case. Utilizer is equally and the producer is equally, bulk producer responsibility. Okay, that is what you have to take initiatives and measures also to reduce the e-waste as well. Okay, so here also processing, technology, and everything was mentioned. R&D and technology and a role of every other bodies have equally been mentioned. But in amendment rule now 23 and 2024, what we have done, we have extended the scope of this e-waste management rules. Okay, under this, the dismantler The definition of it has been extended. Dismantle it means simply what? Segregation, the one who segregates. So it can be a person, individual, or it can be a company also. So it even try to include the informal sector workers also under this dismantle category, and they have certain duties. Then equally you have to segregate. You have to segregate, all that is possible from this e-waste, right? Don't put directly it into the disposal itself, because these are equally resources and optimum resources, because we are looking for this circular economy, a circular economy where we are rather more focusing on reuse and recycle rather than a single usage itself. Okay, so this 23-24, then you will find extended responsibilities had been again on municipalities also, extended on municipalities. So they have to, and their rules have been clearly defined to make them a carrier in the waste management process. Okay, so now have this question. In India 2019, it was extended producer responsibility is important feature of which of the following? Biomedical waste, recycle waste, e-waste management handling rules, right? And then the food safety and related standard. Yes, so e-waste 2011, 2016. Okay? Then practice question as well, guys. Now look for this particular practice question. I know you can absolutely answer them this particular question. Okay? So don't get confused. 16 and 11. Okay? 11 is the very first one itself. Then sulfur dioxide emission norms. As you must be knowing, guys, like carbon dioxide, then it is followed by methane, and sulfur dioxide is equally nitrous oxide and sulfur dioxide. You will find these are equally a potential greenhouse gases. They equally contributes a lot, a significant proportion here in the greenhouse gas production. Okay, and what? India is now the second largest producer of nitrous and this sulfur oxide also. Okay, and what is the most common source here? See, the most common source is thermal power plant. As of now, we are operating more than 200 thermal power plant. 50% of or 50% plus of our energy demand is fulfilled by this coal-based thermal power plant, and that is the major, you will find, a sulfur emitting source in itself. Apart from this thermal power plant, you will find agriculture equally, you will find copper smelting plant, iron smelting plant, industries, various industries. Then you will find some vehicular emissions also would rather leads to this case. Naturally, volcanoes, okay, these are, and even the oceanic various processes would rather leads to release of sulfur dioxide as well. Okay, now in order to control this emission, what we have a process, a flue gas desulfurization. FGD, flue gas desulfurization, that it simply represents desulfurization. It means to convert sulfur into some other product and reduce the emission of this one. So flue gas desulfurization, or FDG, as I said, has been made mandatory under this norm for all those operating thermal power plants. Yes, so the thing is, see, those thermal plant operating within 10 kilometer radius of national capital territory, they have to establish this FGD mechanism in their plant within 2024 itself. Okay, and then successive away from 10 kilometer and for other cities. See, 2026 has been defined as a deadline. However, that has been extended further. But yes, FDG, again under the sulfur dioxide emission norms, FDG installation has been made mandatory for this most polluting. I hope you guys are getting, and that is what about this sulfur emission. Now, have a question on SO2. For this kind of question, guys, always start from this guiding statement, okay? Not from this way. Excess of which of the above in the environment is our causes of acid rain. Yes, acid rain. Carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, ozone or sulfur dioxide. You must be aware about acid rain, right? We have discussed in the previous episodes itself. If you haven't, you can go through it, right? So nitrogen oxide and sulfur oxide, these are the two most critical factor here for acid rain. Okay, so answer is 2 and 4. Then 2021, why there is concern about copper smelting plant? Yes, so as I told you, there are various sources of sulfur emission, right? So copper smelting plant is equally, they may release lethal quantities of carbon monoxide into environment. Fine. The copper slag can cause the leaching of some heavy metals into the environment. Yes, that is equally correct. And they may release sulfur dioxide as a pollutant. Answer is D to this particular question. Okay, so I hope you guys are getting this particular. Now the practice question for you, go through this particular question, very easy question hai. Let me know in the comment box. That was a PYQ itself, okay, but you can answer it for sure. Then micro pollutants in water, PYQ was already asked on this. So PFAS, per fluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl. Perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl, PFAS, these are the very potent MFOS or the this micro pollutants in water. These are also known as forever chemicals. Forever chemicals, why? Because these pollutants would rather remain in the soil, air, water as long as possible because their decomposition is very difficult. So here you will find this PFAS or this they are used in cookwares or cosmetics or you will find plastic stuffs or industries itself. Okay, so in the various products this have been in use in our day-to-day life itself, and they have potential to remain themselves connected with the microplastic also, okay, or in a very micro format, and they are very difficult to then degrade. Even they entered into the human body or even the food chain and leading to the bioaccumulation process in itself and then magnification also. So they are like tropical pollutant itself, having a great potential to damage the whole sequence, the whole ecosystem stability. Okay, so guys, this is very important. MFAS, there was a PYQ on this in the latest examination 2024. See about perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances that are used in the making of consumer products. Okay, consumer products, these are PFAS are found to be widespread in drinking water, food and food packaging material. So that general plastic you will find, these are there. Yes, they are not easily degraded in the environment, right? And persistent exposure to PFAS can lead to bioaccumulation in any animal bodies. They are not easily degraded, and hence answer to this question is 1, 2 and 3. Yes guys, if you have ever looked into the plastic bottle and the tag, there you will find this mention. Then now practice question. You are supposed to answer this simple and easy question, then in the comment. We will be discussing in the next session. Noise pollution standard. See guys, noise pollution as pollution was actually recognized in 1987. Okay, 1987 under Air Amendment Act 1987. It was given authority to CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, which has already authority or mandate to control water pollution and air pollution. Now noise pollution had been further added. Okay, so this noise pollution controlling is very much important. Again, taking the taking the power from this particular act, then CPCB has equally issued guidelines, right? Guidelines and noise emission standards, yes, for the noise controlling itself. So what sort of limits have been imposed? Silent zone 50 to 40, day and night decibel. Residential area should not be 45 decibel in day and 55 decibel in the night time. Commercial area 65 decibel, not more than that. Okay, in night time, daytime, and 55 daytime, night time. Sorry, industrial areas daytime 75 decibel max and 70 decibel minimum. Okay, so you have to remember this, and remember equally it talks about the green muffler in a sense, the plantation है ना, because they act as a absorber of the sound, excessive noise and dust, right? So noise pollution has to be in every building and mechanism. That is what controlling, actually, that is what given over here under the Noise Pollution Standard Act. Okay, now you no need to remember in specific, but yes, in general you guys have to well connect with it. Okay, so yes, look for where under this, okay, this noise pollution standards are prescribed. However, the Environment Protection Act is equally playing a strong role over in this norms and declaration, guys. So let me know that answer. Then fly ash utilization policy. Is fly ash, you must be aware about. While burning a coal, there is like a light black material that is very light, however that fly over here, right, because of its lightweight, very light. So that is what a fly ash. Now this fly ash is even a pollutant also. It affects the albedo of the surface, and then act as global warming agent elsewhere. Okay, so the major source of pollutant is thermal power plants. Okay, thermal power plant as in, and till this 2020 you will find what the fly ash was never been considered as a source for any other utility. It is considered as a waste. Maharashtra was the first state here in the country that has a fly ash export policy that was being launched, and recently you will find the fly ash utilization policy equally been launched, under which every thermal power plant has a duty to utilize this fly ash itself, right? And if it is not, then 1000 per ton rupees would be fine on them. In fact, if they are not ready to utilize it on their own, you have to transfer it to the utilization plant, where some already that machinery or that instrument is there to process it and use it accordingly. So fly ash utilization could be used for cement making, brick making, right, construction, okay, and some other purposes as well. This fly ash is very, very, very important, guys. Energy source also, this fly ash. So what we have to consider it a very important source. Now 2015. So with reference to fly ash produced by the thermal power plant using coal as a fuel, which of the following statements are correct, right? First, second, third. Fly ash can be used in the production of bricks for building construction. Yes, fly ash can be used as replacement for some of the Portland cement content of the concrete, and it is made up of silicon dioxide and calcium dioxide only, and does not contain any toxic element. So third is incorrect. Answer to this is 1 and okay, guys. I hope that is comparatively easy. Now yes, look into this particular case. Yes, chalo. Now the very last point of this particular session, solid waste management rule. See guys, 2016 solid waste management rule have been already published, but there are some limitations with the 2016 management rule, that it rather follows more on or focuses more on disposal of waste rather than its utilization. Yes, so the thing is, we are rather looking for a dumping ground. And you must be aware about the problem that we have seen in Devnar wide landfill here in the Mumbai, or Gazipur trash there in the Delhi and near about region also. So you'll find dumping ground are fulfilled, or landfills are simply created because of this solid waste management rule approach. Now what happened then? From 1st of April 2026, this policy is to be in place, this solid waste management rule, which rather focuses on cyclic circular approach of solid waste management, where we will first use for how we can use this waste, how can we recycle it, can we reuse this particular case, right? And then we will look for at the last case as disposal, disposal should be a last case that would lead to a landfill. Okay, then it is the duty that segregation should be at source, right? Segregation of this waste should be at source itself. Source could be a housing society, source could be company, source could be restaurant, source could be any other public, any other public or private body, right? Or the significant entity where you will find number of individuals and waste is generated, high waste is generated. Then 4 types of waste have been created. Yes, 4 types of waste. So there's like wet by green, dry by blue, or you will find the sanitary waste also, right? Sanitary waste like sanitary pads, or you will find the condoms, okay? So these are various sanitary means as well, okay? Those are basically, and hazardous waste also, okay? That is what under the red color. So 4 types of waste have to be created at the source only, and then you need to use it for either of this case, and then at the last for disposal. Then now every source needs to register itself. Yes, within 1 year. So within 1 year, every source needs to register itself. Yes, and if it don't, that is again a punishable offense. So this solid waste management rule, guys, approach, this rule is with a very different approach in itself. Thus we have to consider it a very important source. Yes, that is very landmark rule in itself, this management. Yes, now the practice question for you based on 2016 source, and that is very easy to solve kind of question. So you just go through. Okay. So guys, this is what all about for this today's session. Yes, I hope you are enjoying this. I hope you are getting this discussion as well. So having any doubt, feel free to comment me and I'll answer all your queries. Thank you, and we'll meet you in the next episode.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.